Hey everyone. So, about 2 weeks ago, we did a video about Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight. Specifically, we looked at the stories that he told about how he got these scars. You can find the link to that video in the description and also right here in the video. And the important thing about those stories is that obviously maybe one of them is at least false, if not both of them. Odds are both of them are false. And it begs the question of what is the Joker's background? And I mentioned that I would do a video about a theory of the Joker's background. One thing before I go into the theory that first came to mind was a theory that was put in the comments to that video. So it's worth going over that real quick. And the quick version of that theory is that the Joker actually had a background in the Mafia or in a kind of crime syndicate or family. And he was a snitch. Because he was a snitch, he was given that scar to make it look like he had a big mouth. If you are a snitch, you have a big mouth. And I could kind of see this as a motivating factor for Joker to some degree. This comes to play in the movie potentially a few times. One, he obviously has it out for the Mafia, for the crime bosses. He, in some respects, you could almost think that that was his motivating factor, and Batman ended up being a side quest in order to get his initial goal, which was to destroy the crime families. It didn't seem like he cared about the money. He burnt the money up. He just wanted to kind of destroy them, and perhaps that was because he had a vendetta because of the scars that he had. Another interesting thing is, of course, the line where Lau, the accountant for the different Mafia crime families, when the Joker sees him, he says, "The Batman will make him talk. I know a talker when I see one. I know a snitch when I see one, and he is a snitch." And again, if his background is as a former crime syndicate person who snitched, then that would make sense. So that's the quick version of that potential background. Now, the background story that I initially had in mind is that the Joker is actually, and by the way, neither of these are my unique theories. The first one, obviously, like I said, came from the comments to the previous video, and this one I've seen around the internet, but it's worth kind of quickly explaining it here. It's the idea that the Joker is actually a war veteran. You can think of him as an Iraqi war veteran. Obviously, Gotham is not a real city, but Gotham is analogous to America, and you can imagine that that world where Gotham is has veterans of a war like Iraq or Afghanistan. And he was injured, and he has come back from that war, and he has PTSD. Now, there are a few moments where this theory really has some credibility. First, let's talk about in general. The Joker does seem to have almost military-like tactics. For example, in the very first scene, we have operational security and compartmentalization. The other people who are helping him rob a bank, each one of them have compartmentalized information. He's the only one with all the real information. Obviously, again, there's tactics there that are not for the average criminal, right? They're coming in on a zip line. He is a master of several different types of weapons, including explosives, right? We see when he blows up the hospital. He's also a master at infiltration, both within the crime families, but also his ability to infiltrate the police department through a disguise and also the hospital through a disguise. Overall, you see him as somebody who is calm under pressure, but again, has obviously cracked mentally somehow. The line that really drives this theory home is when the Joker is with Harvey Dent in the hospital and he hands him a gun to see if Harvey Dent will shoot the Joker. And he's kind of going over his general theory that, he's an agent of chaos. And he says something along the lines of, when a truckload of soldiers get blown up in Iraq, nobody freaks out because it's all part of the plan. And people point to this because, again, that is a way that somebody could get some scars, and it just feels terribly close to home. Again, the Joker has a lot of specialties. Another one would be interrogation. Don't forget, he gives Batman advice on how to interrogate. right? He says, don't go for the head. It makes the victim feel all fuzzy. In some respects, you start to think of the Joker not as just a regular army soldier, but perhaps somebody in special ops, right? Again, somebody who has basic training, if not proficiency, in lots of different weapons and platforms, shotguns, revolvers, automatic pistols, carbines, submachine guns, and an RPG, right? Again, not the average person, even the average soldier. I don't think I wouldn't know here, but I don't think would be trained in all of those. He has knowledge of the manual arms at the funeral, even, right? And again, that's a kind of specialized skill. When you combine this with, his fighting ability, right? He's able to overpower a door guard. He almost beats Batman, and he does the, of course, infamous pencil trick, which again, he does that smooth, perfectly, right? That could be, from different kinds of military training. He has precise planning from the bank heist to the escape from the police station. And even in the last scene, it's all very well strategically planned. It might imply that he was a high-ranking general or tactician of some sort. Again, I think special ops. He knows a lot about, quote-unquote, the system, right? Meaning he potentially worked for the government but ended up hating it. Perhaps this is why he's so pro-chaos. Again, some people would even, related to this theory, say that he wasn't just special ops, that he was a spy, in which case a spy who has maybe lost it could even have lived some of these backstories, right? Maybe there was a time when he was a spy who did have a wife or whose backstory was that he was beaten, etc. In the end, we'll never know. One other side comment I'll point out is someone mentioned that in Stanley Kubrick's film Full Metal Jacket, which deserves its own video, there was a character in that movie called Joker. That was his nickname. And he wore a hat that had the peace symbol on it and also Born to Kill, a kind of, jokery statement, or again, this idea of pro-chaos. And someone had the idea that maybe that's a prequel to this Joker. I think that's a stretch just from the timeline. I mean, again, the Joker from Stanley Kubrick's film would have been of fighting age in Vietnam, which would have made him well into his middle age or late middle age, really, by the time this film came out. But it was a nice little sort of side thought. Look, in the end, again, we don't know the backstory. Maybe he was from a crime family. Maybe he was a special ops or a spy. Maybe he was just some poor schmo. Who knows? I'd love to hear what your theories are. And again, if you like this and want to see more videos like it, let me know in the comments or share and subscribe. Thank you very much. Peace and love.